5 simple steps. 5 simple steps. Simple. They're simple. I promise they're simple. 5 simple steps. What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 5 simple steps you can do in order to be consistent with your diet. This is probably one of the biggest things people struggle with. I'm going to break it down into literally just do these 5 things. I beg of you, I plead of you, if you do these 5 things, you are going to see tremendous progress. Without further ado, let's just dive right into the video. The first and probably most important thing, do not cut out food groups, and I just put carbs because that's the number one food group people cut out when they go into a diet. Please don't cut out carbs. You don't have to. There's a few reasons why I don't want you to cut out carbs. Number one, it's not necessary. That's first and foremost. You don't need to cut out carbs or be afraid of carbs if you want to lose weight. I'm going to link a study here above, and I'm going to put a picture here above, and I'm going to link a study here below. This study showed that these individuals, they only ate rice, fruit, and juice. And they lost an average of 141 pounds. An average of 141 pounds. If carbs made you fat, and if you could not lose weight with eating carbs, how the hell would these people lose not only a little bit of weight, but a tremendous amount of weight eating only carbohydrates, nothing else? They only ate carbs. It is unnecessary, and you do not have to cut out carbs in order to lose weight. So that's number one. It's just unnecessary. You don't have to do it. But number two, when it comes to being consistent with your diet, when you try to cut out entire food groups, like cutting out carbs was going to be, it's almost like this boa constrictor wraps around your diet and wraps around you that much more, because what's going to happen is you're automatically going to slash an entire third of the foods you could possibly eat because there's protein, carbs, and fats. When you try to cut out an entire food group, you're automatically slashing 1/3 of the options you could potentially have to eat and potentially help you be on track with your diet. Because let's say, for example, you go out to eat to a restaurant, or you even go to the grocery store. Like let's use the example of going out to eat to a restaurant with your friends or your spouse or wherever. Automatically, you're now at a disadvantage because you cannot have carbs. You limit your playing field of the foods you can possibly eat. As opposed to being able to eat whatever food you want in moderation and still fit it in your calories and still lose weight, you're now limiting the food you can then eat. So if you're limiting the foods you can now eat, don't you think it's going to be a bit more challenging, a bit more difficult in order to actually stick to your diet? Because if you can't have this, and you can't have that, and you can't have this, what can you have? What are you going to have? You're putting yourself behind the 8 ball that much more when you try to do things like cutting out entire food groups or cutting out carbs. Now, I guess, is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but that doesn't mean it's optimal, and it does not mean it's gonna, if you are having trouble sticking to your diet and staying consistent, it sure as hell is not gonna make being consistent with your diet any easier for you. Not to mention, this can also lead to this cycle of over-restricting and then binging, over-restricting and then binging. You're telling yourself you can't have this, you can't have that, and then when you eventually do have it, you're gonna binge on it, and we're gonna talk about that more right now. The second step you need to do in order to be consistent with your diet, do not cut out any foods and or do not make foods off limits. We're kind of piggybacking off this last one, but if you love donuts, please do not cut out donuts. If you love having rice, please do not cut out rice. And don't think that a burger, for example, is off limits because it's not a healthy food and it's a bad food. This is a surefire way to not be consistent with the diet you are trying to follow, because that diet you are trying to follow is incredibly unsustainable. The saying of, if you love something, let it go, that's not true here. Don't do that here. Which, by the way, I don't even know where that saying came from. It's like, if you love something, let it go. Like, you love your 9-month-old baby, you're gonna let it go? Like, I actually don't think so. I probably think you're not going to do that, right? So definitely, if you love something, definitely keep it close to you. Do not let it go. But why don't you want to do this? Number one, like we talked about above right here, you're automatically limiting yourself. You're limiting your playing field. You're having this boa constrictor wrap around you and your diet that much more. You're making things that much tighter, that much harder on yourself, because you only have a select few things you can now choose from, because you can't have this and you can't have that, and this is off limits. You're making this boa constrictor that much tighter, which is going to make it that much harder to be consistent with your diet. Again, as opposed to just having the foods in moderation, because there are no good and bad foods, because like we talked about earlier, there is no one food that inherently makes you fat or inherently makes you gain weight, because as long as you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose body fat. And even beyond that factor, we can talk about what I was going to talk about here as well, which is going to be this cycle of over-restricting and then binging. This is going to be a common topic, which I'm sure you've probably dealt with if you struggle to be consistent with your diet. Maybe you're on for a few days or a few weeks, and then you're off for a few days or a few weeks. On for a few days or a few weeks, off for a few days or a few weeks. The biggest concept here is going to be the things you are trying to do you're setting yourself up for failure from the beginning. When it comes to cutting out favorite foods, making foods off limits, saying there are bad foods, this is going to lead to this cycle of over-restricting and binging. I talk about this in my other YouTube video when I cover, how to stop binge eating. If you want to watch that video after this one, I'll link it here above. Feel free to kind of give that a watch, but I'll go a bit in depth on it here. What's going to happen is you're going to try to cut out these foods and not have these foods for 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, whatever it ends up being for you, however long you can hold out and grit up and really work hard to not have these foods, which is, like I said, unnecessary. But let's just say you go 5 days without having your chips or having the cookies or having the Doritos or the donuts or whatever it is. On that 6th day, when you finally do have that said food, because you're going to have the food, let's be honest. I don't know, I've coached thousands of people. I don't know many people who have just like, oh, I'm never having this again, and they never have it again. Especially if it's a food they enjoy. If they enjoy a food, they're probably gonna have it at some point in time. So what happens is, when you label these foods off limits, you restrict yourself. You're like, well, I want it, but I can't have it. I want it, but I'm not allowed to have it. I can't have it. So when you finally end up having it, what happens? You don't have it in moderation. You go off and binge on it and have a shit ton of it because you've over-restricted yourself for the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 days from it. So when you do have it, you binge because you've restricted yourself, but also because you're in this mindset of, well, this is a bad food, this is an off-limits food, so I'm gonna go back to not being allowed to have it again. So when I do have it, I better make sure I have fucking all of it because I'm gonna go back to not being allowed to have it again. This leads to binging. This then leads to, well, since you already overate and you already had the food, I already screwed up, I might as well keep going on Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night, and I'll just get back on track Monday. And then Monday comes around and you've just binged for Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Monday comes around, you try to get back on track with your plan that is not sustainable, and you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you're cutting out these foods again, not allowed to have them, so on and so forth. Friday rolls around, you're like, holy shit, I want these cookies again. You have the cookies, you eat it, you overeat it, not in moderation, and this cycle happens over and over and over. This is why you might be able to stick to a diet for a week or 2 weeks and then not stick to it for 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, and this cycle happens over and over and over. It's the entire thought process of over-restricting to try to get to where you want to be. It is not going to lead to long-term success, I promise you, because if you're watching this video, long-term success is what you want, because if you're trying to learn how to be consistent with your diet, I think you want long-term success. This is not going to lead to long-term success. So do not cut out carbs, and do not label foods off limits. Do not label foods good and bad. Do not label foods that you're not allowed to have those foods. Okay, so those are the first 2 things. The third thing is going to be, please, I'm asking nicely, please, for the love of God, stop trying to go so low in calories. It's not going to work for you. It's going to backfire like it probably has been every single time. And you're probably wanting to go too low in calories or very low in calories for 2 main reasons. Number one, you might think you have to, which that's just not true. If you weigh 200 pounds, if you weigh 180 pounds, you do not have to do 1,200 calories to lose weight. There's only been a few people that I've coached in my life that I've put either on 1,200 calories, I would say below 1,200, below 1,300 calories. There's only been a few people in my 4 years plus of coaching now that I've put people under 1,300 calories for their diet. And those people have been like very short, very petite women who don't get a lot of activity during their day. That's the only real reason I would ever probably do that. It's just not necessary. I know, you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, you're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through TikTok, you're on the internet, you're telling people, oh, here's a 1,200 calorie meal plan. This girl did 1,200 calories, she lost 30 pounds in a month, da-da-da. No, it's not true. Please, please, please realize that you do not have to go that low in calories in order to lose body fat. If you want to know how many calories you should be eating to lose body fat, I'm gonna link my entirely free calorie calculator here above. It's totally free, it's here on YouTube. It's, again, totally free. Feel free to watch that video if you want to know how many calories you should eat to lose weight. But that's number one, it is not necessary. You do not have to go that low in calories. But number two, and probably more likely, you're probably in the thought process of, well, let's just say, you know, my calorie calculator gave you 1,800 calories. In your head, you're probably like, well, okay, if I can eat 1,800 calories and lose weight, why not eat 1,200 calories and lose weight even faster and get to my goal even quicker? I understand your thought process and I understand why you think that would make sense, but it's not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to, it's not going to work because in theory, it would work. If you eat less, you would lose more. But the reality is, by day 4, by day 5, by day 6, you're gonna be so goddamn hungry, you're gonna be so tired, you're gonna be so burnt out, you're gonna be so restricted that by day 5 or 6, probably when Friday or Saturday rolls around and you magically, for some reason, keep wondering why you keep falling off your diet, even though Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you've eaten fucking 1,100 calories and you find it shocking that by Friday you're fucking starving and you're burnt out and you don't wanna, you don't wanna stick to your diet anymore, which, whatever. But going back to it, this is why. Because, eating this few calorie amount is not going to lead to faster weight loss long term. Everything I'm going to talk about here today is long term. I have no interest in you losing weight just so you can regain it all back. I don't want that for you. I want that for none of my clients. I don't want it for you. Please don't do it. The fact is, going too low in calories to speed up your weight loss, it's going to backfire every single time. If you would, and you've probably had this happen to you, if you would have just taken a slower, more sustainable approach from the beginning, and you did that the entire time, you would be at your goal body weight sooner, because what's going to happen is when you go this low in calories, 1,200, 1,300 calories, when you go that low in calories, cool, like over 3 months or 2 months or a month or whatever it ends up being, you may lose some weight, but you're gonna fall off, not be consistent, probably regain the weight back. So in 6 months or 9 months, you've lost 15 pounds and then gained 20 pounds. Lost 20 pounds, gained 22 pounds. And you do this cycle, you yo-yo cycle over and over and over and over again. So by the time 9 months rolls around and you've gotten done losing 25, gaining 30, losing 20, gaining 26, you're up 6 pounds in 9 months. You've lost, gain, lost, gain, lost, gain. But by the end of 9 months, you've gained 6 pounds. Whereas somebody who takes a more moderate approach can be more consistent with their diet. In 9 months, that person can be down 30, 40 pounds, and they've actually lost it, sustained it, and are gonna keep it off forever. As opposed to the individual who is losing really quickly and then gaining really quickly. I think I did losing like this. Losing really quickly, gaining really quickly. Losing, gaining. And this is up and down, up and down. They never make any progress because they're just going, it's just this constant cycle of like, again, they lose, gain. So the long-term trend, you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. As opposed to if you start here more sustainable, slowly go down, slowly go down, slowly go down, slowly go down. There's going to be some spike ups and stall outs, and I have a whole separate video on, your weight's going to fluctuate. I'll put it here above, but over time, that weight is going to slowly go down. So going too low in calories, please don't do that. It's not a surefire way to be consistent with your diet, all right? Now, the fourth step is going to be, for all you type A people, you're never going to be perfect. Never, ever, ever. You're never going to be perfect because perfect does not exist. So that means when you have a day where you go over your calories, that means when you have a day where, you're not consistent, you're not perfect spot on, you did not hit your calories perfectly, you may have not even tracked calories that day, or for goddamn sure you went over calories that day. So what? So what? So many people, that one night of you, I burped, excuse me. That one night of you overeating did not ruin all your progress. In the same way that one day of eating perfect did not make all your progress. I'm sure you're like, well, shit, like if I could just eat perfect one day and I make all my progress, that'd be sweet. But for some reason you think that overeating one night is going to ruin all your progress. It works in both directions. Let me tell you this. It takes 3,500 calories above your maintenance calories to gain 1 pound, one teeny tiny pound of body fat. So you overeating 400 calories from your calorie deficit, you're not gaining body fat that day. You didn't ruin everything. You didn't fuck anything up. You should not feel guilty. It is all good. what happens is you are using that one day, that one night of overeating. You're letting that be an excuse to justify continuing to keep being off track, continuing to keep overeating. The fact that, oh, well, I already fucked up, so I might as well keep going. Oh, well, I already messed up. Why not just keep eating? Screw it, I'll get back on Monday. It's Wednesday right now. I'll get back on track next Monday. And the fact that you don't get back on track right now, that's the reason you can't be consistent with your diet, because you think just because you aren't perfect that you've ruined all your progress, you've messed everything up, and you're a failure. It's not true. Do not allow yourself to use that excuse. Fuck that. I'm taking the excuse away from you. Just because you had one day of overeating, you did not ruin all your progress and you did not mess up. So now, when that happens again, you now know you cannot use that as an excuse to just keep going. You have to get right back on track literally that second. Do not wait. Get back on track that second. And again, there's nothing wrong with striving to be good. There's nothing wrong with striving to work hard and, be as consistent as you possibly can. But don't let, I love you want to work hard, but don't let that then blind you from the fact that you are never going to be perfect, and that's okay, because if you are blinded, you will not be consistent because you'll just get down on yourself. You'll be very upset, feel very guilty. Don't. There's no reason to. You did not do anything wrong. Just get right back on track. I promise you'll be okay. And the final step in terms of how to be consistent with your diet, listen, you want to lose body fat. You are going to go on a calorie deficit. This means you are going to eat less calories than what your body is burning. That is the definition of a calorie deficit. This means you're going to have to restrict some calories. And don't confuse this with, I talked the entire first 3 points were don't over restrict. So hear me very loud and clear here. Going into a calorie deficit is going to require some restriction. It's just the nature of it. You're eating less calories than your body burns. That in of itself is like the definition of restriction, right? Some sacrifices are going to have to be made along the way. When you go out to eat with your friends at dinner, you might not be able to just eat whatever the hell you want in whatever quantity you want. It's probably why you've gotten to this point right now, because it's what you've probably been doing. You might have to look ahead at the menu and find out, hey, I'm going to have one of these 3 options because I know I can, I know this has a high protein option. I know that I'll be able to, track my calories this way. I know that, I can have about, a half cup of rice, something like that. Or, your friend's birthday party, you might have to only limit yourself to 2 drinks as opposed to 6. Because you can't just eat and drink whenever you want and still lose body fat. Now, like I said, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be consistent. Consistency, not perfection. But the fact of the matter is, life happens. But just because life happens, if you have a dinner on Wednesday and you have your coworker's birthday party on Thursday and you're going out to dinner Friday with your spouse and then Saturday is girls' night, you can't just say fuck it all those nights and still see progress. It's not going to happen. And I want you to realize this because you need to have realistic expectations up front. Because if you don't, you will fail. And I'm not trying to be like a stern here. Like, I just want to have you succeed. So you have to have realistic expectations up front. Because I think what happens a lot of the time is people think that they're going onto a diet and not much is going to change. I don't really believe that to be true. Now, of course, like I just said the entire time over here, I do not want you to over-restrict food. That's not what this is about. This is about, though, having realistic expectations. You have to realize that, instead of going into this journey and then when these times do come where it's like, you might feel like you're being over-restricted or you might feel like this isn't fair, you might feel like you're on a diet, you can't just eat and drink whatever you want the entire time and still be able to lose body fat, because that's not what's going to yield results for you. So as opposed to getting upset, as opposed to feeling down, as opposed to feeling like, this sucks, woe is me, realize, no, up front, cool, I might not be able to have 6 drinks. I might have to limit myself to 2. I might not be able to just, indulge on the appetizers and the dessert and the entree at dinner. I might have to make sure I stick to my dinner, make sure all my food fits on one plate. Like, you're going to have to realize going into these things, have proper expectations, so when these times do come, you will be able to deal with them properly and be more consistent with your diet. So guys, that was the 5 simple steps to be consistent with your diet. Very quickly, going over it one more time. Do not cut out carbs, or any entire food group, but normally carbs. Do not cut out foods and or make foods off limits. Please stop trying to go so low in calories, which again, if you need a calorie calculator, if you want to know how many calories you need to eat to lose weight, check out the video. I have a free calorie calculator on here. Number 4, you are never going to be perfect, and that's okay. You just have to be consistent. And number 5, some sacrifices are going to have to be made along the way. Okay, guys, so any questions, concerns there, please let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please, again, any questions, concerns, or if you enjoyed the video, put them below in the comments. I would love to read them. Other than that, thank you for watching, and we'll talk soon.